we did a number of categorization and we started with the long-term sources of finance. The prime source here being the equity shares, which is the ownership capital of the firm. We discussed equity shares with at length with the features, advantages, disadvantages. Then we discussed the preference shares and their features, advantages, disadvantages, debentures, advantages and disadvantages. So debenture is debt capital for the firm, and it is basically an acknowledgement of debt taken by the firm from the public on which the firm pays interest regularly for the duration of the time for which the debt is taken, along with the repayment of the principal amount at the end of that time duration. Now, there's another term which is used interchangeably with debt or debenture, basically, is bond. Now, bond and debentures in layman language, we use them interchangeably. Both of them are debt capital for the firm. But in finance, there is a difference between debenture and bonds. A minor difference in the sense that one, debentures are issued by companies, whereas bonds are issued by government or government linked corporations. Second, debentures, I told you there are various types of debentures, and generally, debentures can be secured or unsecured. So, therein, when we talk about bonds which are issued by the government, there's some collateral or security is always present or present most of the times. Whereas, in case of debentures issued by companies, they might be collateralized or they may not be backed by a collateral. But bonds are generally most of the time secured by some collateral. Because bonds are issued by the government and then they are secured by some assets, therefore the risk is lower as compared to debentures. If the risk is lower, then as compared to debentures, the interest rate offered on bonds will also be low. Whereas, because debentures are a bit riskier than bonds, they offer a comparatively higher rate of interest. So this is what is the difference between bonds and debentures. But at the end of the day, both are used as long-term sources of finance to raise money from the public. After that, the next long-term and a very cost-efficient source of finance for the firm is retained earnings. Retained earnings, जो profit firm ने earn करा after distribution of interest and preference dividend, after payment of tax, the earnings which remain for the equity shareholders, there the firm decides, okay, what should be the dividend payout ratio. तो वहां पर अगर 20% डिविडेंड पे करा तो 80% फर्म ने अर्निंग्स अपने पास रिटेन कर ली, which can then be used by the firm for future operations, for future investments, for future expansion projects. So this comes out to be an internal source of finance for the firm with a very low cost. अब हम जब डिटेल में फाइनेंस में करते हैं तो हम ये कहते हैं कि सब सोर्सेज ऑफ फाइनेंस की एक कॉस्ट होती है। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स फर्म के लिए बिल्कुल कॉस्ट फ्री सोर्स है या बिल्कुल ही जीरो कॉस्ट है फर्म के लिए। रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स जब फर्म अपने पास रखती है तो इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स की एक्सपेक्टेशन इंक्रीज हो जाती है कि क्योंकि फर्म ने हमें कम डिविडेंड दिया है, आगे फर्म बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट अर्न करेगा और सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर्स में हमारा डिविडेंड भी इंक्रीज होगा और हमारे शेयर के प्राइसेस भी इंक्रीज होंगे। So in that sense, there is always a cost involved in retained earnings also for the firm. Okay, so there's no fixed obligation. It is a very flexible source of finance for the firm. Retained earnings, if invested profitably, will increase the value of the firm. Uh, it will avoid excessive tax for the firm, and basically it increases the earning capacity of the firm because there the firm has a ready source of funds available with it. Now, disadvantages are now sometimes retained earnings can reduce the tax burden. Companies try to reduce the tax burden through retained earnings, and then second is misuse. Not always will the firm get good return, or sometimes mere manipulation of share prices can also be done using retained earnings. So these concepts, though a bit high level, but for the time being, just understand that excessive reliance on retained earnings is also not good for the firm. After that, when firms need short-term or medium sources of finance or long-term sources also, firms can approach commercial banks. Commercial banks, they provide finance in various ways. One is by giving short-term loans to the firm or some long-term loans to the firm. Short-term loans are generally for meeting the working capital requirement. Long-term loans may be for purchasing some machinery or going for some diversification project, something like that. Also, in short term, some cash credit may be given by the bank to the customer, where customer can borrow up to a certain limit against the security of a commodity. So collateral देता है customer, और customer कुछ borrow additional कर पाता है बैंक से, जिसके लिए बैंक charges रखती है. उसी तरह एक और विड्रॉल और बोरोइंग की फैसिलिटी होती है, विच इज ओवरड्राफ्ट. ओवरड्राफ्ट फैसिलिटी इज गिवन टू द करंट अकाउंट होल्डर्स, जो अपने अकाउंट से ज्यादा विड्रॉल, अकाउंट बैलेंस से ज्यादा विड्रॉल कर सकते हैं. Again, this is on chargeable basis by the bank. So in short term, this also becomes a very important source of finance for the firm. नेक्स्ट इज ट्रेड क्रेडिट. ट्रेड क्रेडिट क्या होता है? जो नॉर्मल प्रैक्टिकल वर्किंग होती है फर्म्स की, जो बिजनेस फर्म्स होती हैं, many a times they purchase goods from the suppliers, they purchase raw material from the suppliers on credit basis. That is, no payment of cash is done at the time of purchase, but some time period is given for the by the creditor or by the supplier to the firm to make the payment. तो ये एक नॉर्मल प्रैक्टिस होती है बिजनेस में, जहाँ पे सप्लायर्स जो उनके ट्रस्टेड फर्म्स होती हैं उनको क्रेडिट बेसिस पे गुड्स भेज देते हैं, और फिर 15-20 दिन का टाइम या से 1 मंथ का टाइम देते हैं टू मेक द पेमेंट ऑफ द गुड्स परचेज और रॉ मटेरियल परचेज. For that 15-20 days time period, firm has the raw materials and firm is also having the cash with it. The cash payment has not been done. This is the facility of trade credit. So credit extended by the suppliers becomes a short-term source of finance for the firm, because till the time this payment is done to the creditor, these funds can be used by the firm. This is an informal source of finance for the firm. Again, like credit given by suppliers, advances can be given by customers. So customer जो advances होते हैं, I'll just come to this point first and then I'll move back to public deposit. तो customers भी बहुत बारी कुछ लमसम ऑर्डर दिया तो उसके अगेंस्ट कस्टमर कुछ एडवांस दे दे बिजनेस को. So till the time the product is delivered to the customer, this advance by the customer helps in meeting, say, the short term requirements of the firm, and therefore becomes a good form of funding और कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट जो होती है फर्म की वर्किंग कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट होती है वो शॉर्ट टर्म सोर्स ऑफ फाइनेंस ये एडवांस बाय कस्टमर बन जाता है. Coming to public deposit is another source of finance for the firm. Public deposit, as the name suggests, taking deposit from the public. Short term deposits लेती हैं firm, unsecured होते हैं और generally जो working capital requirements होती है उनको meet करने के लिए होते हैं. Again debt है, इसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट भी पे करेगी फर्म और इसके टाइम ड्यूरेशन के एंड पे प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट की रीपेमेंट भी करनी होती है फर्म को वापस टू द पब्लिक. Advertisement is made by the firm in the newspapers. Any member of public can fill the prescribed form, deposit the money with the company. Company will give an acknowledgement, and what interest the company pays on public deposit. Now generally firms will go for public deposits when they are not able to get source funding from any other option. So say banks से अभी लोन नहीं मिल रहा तो फर्म पब्लिक से जाके ये लोन ले रही है. इसके लिए जो इंटरेस्ट है वो डिपेंड करेगा कंपनी की रेप्यूटेशन पे. तो बड़ी कंपनीज के लिए पब्लिक डिपॉजिट इजियर होगा अरेंज करना. दे माइट ऑफर अ लोअर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, whereas new firms or comparatively smaller firms will have to offer higher interest rate so that people deposit their money with the company. So these are the various sources of finance that can be used by the firm. Now we come to the second aspect of this unit, which is on investment. तो अभी तक हम सारा कुछ जो बात कर रहे थे फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट या मैनेजमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंसेस, दे वर ऑल फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द firm. Now, from the perspective of the firm, in the sense all about raising money for the firm and then effectively utilizing that money. Another related concept in finance is investment. Investment is when today we are ready to forego some money in anticipation of a higher sum of money or in anticipation of return in the future. Now, if I have 1 lakh rupees surplus with me, I can do one thing. One thing is I keep the money in my locker, and after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whenever I'll be withdrawing that money, I'll get that 1 lakh rupees only. तो जब भी मैं अपना बैंक में चाहे लॉकर है या घर में लॉकर है वो ओपन करूंगी वो 1 लाख का 1 लाख ही मुझे मिलेगा. Even if I keep this money under my mattress, hide it somewhere, whenever I retrieve that money, I have the same amount with me. Investment is when I try to grow this amount. So instead of keeping this money under my mattress, under my pillow, I take the money, put it in my savings account in the bank. Safe option, money is safe, and at least 4% rate of return मुझे हर ईयर मिल रहा है इस डिपॉजिट पे. तो आपने क्या करा है आज आप अपने मनी को फोरगो कर रहे हो. यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इट समवेयर एंड दिस इज ऑल डन with the expectation that you will be getting a return on the money invested in the future. This process is known as investment. Now, whenever our consumption is lower as compared to our earnings, we have some savings, and the golden rule of investment is that you should always put your savings to some productive investment avenue so that that money grows over a period of time. So when investors put their savings to make them increase over time, it is known as investment. And the return that we get on investment depends on the type of investment option we are choosing, how much is the prevailing interest rate in the economy, and the time value of money involved. तो जो यहाँ पर पॉइंट है, the rate of exchange between future rupee and current rupee is pure rate of interest. So that is what time value of money is. The interest rate established in the markets is on the basis of savings and the demand for borrowing. So supply और demand के forces ही determine करते हैं कि क्या interest rate होगा on the investment में. Now, an investment is current commitment of rupee for a period of time in order to derive future payments, and these payments compensate the investor for time value of money, the time the funds are committed, the expected inflation, and the uncertainty. Now, in the financial system, in the economy, investor can be you and me, individuals. It can be a company, it can be the government, or it can also be a foreign entity which is investing in India. Okay, so investor is not only individual, but it can also be a government company, एक insurance company, दूसरी investment या एक mutual fund company में invest कर रही है, and so on. So these all together make the term investment, and these are various types of investors. Now, when I give you an introduction to investment, there is a closely related term which is used in investment, which is speculation. Now, investment and speculation are different from each other. जब भी हम investment करते हैं, हम एक बहुत प्रॉपर कैलकुलेशन के साथ करते हैं, अपना होमवर्क करके करते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट, कि इतने टाइम पीरियड के लिए मैं अपना पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ, दिस इज द रिटर्न दैट आई एक्सपेक्ट फ्रॉम दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट, and this is these are the terms and conditions involved in this investment, and I have assessed all the risk involved. बट स्पेक्यूलेशन इज ऑल अबाउट टेकिंग रिस्क. इन्वेस्टमेंट में हम क्या कोशिश करते हैं, अपने रिस्क को मिनिमाइज करना. स्पेक्यूलेशन में हम और ज्यादा रिस्क लेते हैं, वी अज्यूम हायर रिस्क बिकॉज वी वांट अ वेरी वेरी हाई रिटर्न. So what I am doing is I am playing on the price variations or price changes in the market. So I feel okay. Say a company is about to come up with its annual results. मुझे नहीं पता क्या चल रहा है कंपनी के बैक एंड पे, कितना प्रॉफिट होना है, कितना लॉस होना है, बट मुझे ये लग रहा है कि क्योंकि रिजल्ट आ रहा है, जल्दी जल्दी मैं इस कंपनी के शेयर्स परचेज कर लूं. अभी 2 घंटे बाद रिजल्ट आ जाएगा, और जैसे ही रिजल्ट आएगा, अगर कंपनी के शेयर्स की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी, आई विल एग्जिट फ्रॉम द shares of the company. So this is a short term activity where what I am doing is I am not concerned about the safety of the investment. What I want is above average return, and for that I am ready to take a very high risk also. Time duration, time horizon is very short. I am not going to keep these shares with me for a long period of time. So what we are doing, we are buying, holding for a short period, selling. We are also short selling. Short selling is borrowing करके शेयर्स को आगे सेल करना. तो ये सब जो एक्टिविटीज होती है, इनमें रिस्क बहुत ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व होता है, इसलिए ये दीज ऑल कम अंडर स्पेक्यूलेटिव एक्टिविटीज, and therefore only people who are ready to take a lot of risk will go for speculation in the market. So when people invest, when I am going for investment, I'll check all the fundamentals of the company. Company का past profits कैसे हैं, company कैसे operate कर रही है, management कैसी है company की, company के future plans क्या है. I'll look into all the fundamentals of the company, but speculators, they look for pieces of information, कहीं से कोई news मिल जाए, रिलेटेड टू द कंपनी, या फिर वो एक हम टेक्निकल एनालिसिस टर्म यूज करते हैं, वो बेसिकली होती है चार्ट से रिलेटेड टू कंपनी देखना। तो क्या मूवमेंट हो रही है प्राइसेस ऑफ शेयर्स ऑफ कंपनी की, और उन बेसिस पे शॉर्ट टर्म में जल्दी जल्दी पैसा लगा के एंड trying to earn above average profit. So all this comes under speculation when you are relying not on the fundamentals of the company, but on hearsay and what can be the market psychology. So if today market is falling, I start buying the shares because I expect कि जल्दी जल्दी अभी मार्केट फॉल कर रही है, कुछ ब्रेक लगेगा और बहुत ही जल्दी प्राइसेस इंक्रीज हो जाएंगे एक पर्टिकुलर शेयर के। सो आई स्टार्ट accumulating the stocks of that company, और वो भी मैं अपने पैसे से नहीं कर रही हूँ, उधार के फंड से कर रही हूँ। And then as soon as the prices rise, I will start selling these shares. तो जो इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है that is from my own funds, whereas speculation is generally from borrowed funds, and less of calculation and homework is done in speculation, but in investment we do a proper analysis of the investment option with us. So, people who speculate are daring, and they might earn some profits at one point of time, but they might also incur huge losses at other point of time. तो वहाँ पर income stable नहीं होती. I hope these points are clear, the points of difference between investment and speculation. एंड जब हम ये दो टर्म्स की बात करते हैं तो एक और टर्म होती है गैम्बलिंग जो हम यूज करते हैं। तो स्पेक्यूलेशन में फिर भी थोड़ा बहुत आपने शायद कुछ एफर्ट करा हो to know about the company. Gambling is taking chance. So you are randomly making investment, no homework done, randomly putting in money, not making investment, but randomly putting in money just for fun purposes. You are taking a very very high level of risk, no stability of income, एंड सिर्फ आप लक पे वर्क कर रहे हो, वो गैम्बलिंग होता है। तो इन्वेस्टमेंट इज द सेफेस्ट, speculation is risky, but the most riskiest of the three is gambling. So, after this, we have a look at the types of investments that we can make. So, we can make economic investments और real assets में आप invest कर सकते हो। Economic investment होती है investing in real assets, assets that we can see, assets that are tangible. So I put my money in property, I buy some machinery, I buy some building, buy a building. That is investment in real assets, in tangible assets. You can see them, you see them depreciating over a period of time. Also, there is wear and tear involved in these assets. Except for land, all the other assets, long term assets, fixed assets are depreciated. On the other hand, जो आपके फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स होते हैं, जो सारे एसेट्स अभी हमने बात करी, शेयर्स, डिबेंचर्स, प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स, ये सब जो फाइनेंशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट है, दीज आर ऑल इनटैंजिबल। तो आप एक आपने शेयर्स परचेज करें किसी कंपनी के, दैट इज जस्ट एन एंट्री और दैट इज जस्ट रिफ्लेक्टेड इन योर डीमैट अकाउंट, यू कैन नॉट see that asset. Obviously, that is again backed by the company, and that shows your ownership in the company, proportionate ownership. But such assets are just paper claims. There is no depreciation, no wear and tear involved in financial assets. बट रियल एसेट्स में मेंटेनेंस भी करनी है और वहां पर वैल्यू डेप्रिशिएट भी होती है। Okay, so this is introduction to what investment is. Let me check if I have the investment process here. Okay, I'll give you an overview of the investment process first, and then we will move to risk and return. So, class, when you decide, okay, you have some surplus money and you want to make investment, what things come to your mind? How do you decide where to make the investment? Think of some points that come to your mind कि कौन सी इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शन चूज करें, कितने टाइम पीरियड के लिए चूज करें, what all comes to your mind when you think of the term investment and what type of investment you want to make. Start putting the answers in the chat box. Let me see. So today you have surplus money. How will you decide where to invest or what investment options come to your mind? You can put that also in the chat box so we can discuss them fast. Okay, so yes, mutual funds, share market initially intraday, then move on to long term. Okay, so Tanvi, there then you are ready to take a lot of risk. जब आप intraday पर ही अपनी investment करोगे तो वो तो फिर एक तरीके से speculation ही हो जाएगी. लॉन्ग टर्म जब हम सोचते हैं पैसा लगाने का तब हम मोर और लेस इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करते हैं. इंट्राडे फ्लक्चुएशंस पे पैसा अर्न करना दैट वुड बी वेरी रिस्की. Okay, any other thing that comes to your mind? How do you decide invest in gold? Yes, the price of gold increases. Yes, fixed deposit, real estate. Okay, so good. You people are giving examples of investment also, and then why are you choosing a particular investment? Look, your first and foremost uh, point आता है when we talk about our investment and what my investment plans are. One, I will have some objective in mind. तो जैसे आपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स की बात करी, म्यूचुअल फंड्स जब मैं डिसाइड कर रही हूँ कि मुझे किस टाइप के म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करना है, कितने टाइम पीरियड के लिए इन्वेस्ट करना है, माय इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑब्जेक्टिव विल बी इन माइंड से आई एम प्लानिंग फॉर माय रिटायरमेंट or for my children marriage or say the education of my children. These can be some of the objectives for investment I have in mind. Today, for you, it can be to save for a new, say, I have to purchase a house, I have to save for that. So, 10, 15 years down the line, I want to purchase or invest in real estate. I will accordingly decide where and how much to invest. So the starting point of the investment process for a company or for an individual is to decide or to narrow down on your investment objective. So once I have the investment objective in mind, next I look for the possible investment options in the market. So when you say mutual funds, you're talking about gold, you're talking about fixed deposit, then there are some merits and demerits of each investment option available. One may give you a good return, but the risk may be very high. Like in case of shares, we say that they give above average return, but the risk is also very high. You might lose your principal amount and no return be there. On the other hand, fixed deposit is very, very safe investment, but then the return is also low. And class, with the inflation rate being around 6-7%, जो आपको net return मिलता है fixed deposit का, वो actually negative में चला जाता है. That is what happens. So all these things need to be kept in mind when I am analyzing each investment option available to me. Then on the basis of my investment objective, my investment horizon, horizon क्या होता है, कितने टाइम पीरियड के लिए मैंने इन्वेस्ट करना है, I narrow down on my choice of investment. I will invest. After some time I will evaluate my investment whether it has fulfilled my objectives or not, and accordingly I will revise my portfolio. पोर्टफोलियो क्या होता है, जितनी मेरी वैरायटी ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं मैं सबको एनालाइज करूंगी एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर. अगर मुझे लगता है कि से मुझे रियल एस्टेट से ज्यादा रिटर्न नहीं मिल रहा, आई विल एग्जिट फ्रॉम रियल एस्टेट एंड आई विल पुट माई मोर मनी से इनटू गोल्ड. So this is revising of my portfolio. So investment as a process is very dynamic, नेवर एंडिंग. आप एक बार इन्वेस्टमेंट करके भूलते नहीं हो, आप पॉइंट टू पॉइंट उसको री एनालाइज करके रिव्यू भी करते हो. This is how companies make their investment decisions, and this is how individuals make their investment decision.